So what am I going to say here? Some people, well, one person actually said that I was just jealous of Thunderfoot. That's why I'm criticizing him. No, if I'm doing something ethically questionable in this situation, it's that I'm picking on Thunderfoot because he makes a good example. I mean, I don't really care about Thunderfoot. I don't really find him the most egregious example of misunderstanding metaphysics. What he is someone that was put to this position of telling a theist that, yeah, that maybe the universe doesn't exist. You just have to assume it. There's no reasoning below that level. This is where we start. And I strongly disagree with that, and this is a point I've been making for 30 years, right, about skepticism and relativity. And over time, I've invented little terms for myself, like relativistic skepticism, to embody, you know, these ideas and things like that. But basically, I find ideas pretty much persisted, and most of the information I've gotten since then is on other traditions that have come to similar conclusions, and then information from those traditions. So this, to me, this case should be obvious. Of people are saying, "Oh, metaphysics isn't important." Here's why it is. You know, by the time you are when you discuss philosophy of science, you quickly leave the lab, and then you quickly leave the department, and you enter a realm of natural philosophy. And it's not until the fundamentals of your epistemology that the metaphors of science start to be at a level that the metaphors of theism are starting from. You know, the common root of our common experience as humans splits off very quickly. And, you know, just even the idea of thinking there has to be basal assumptions, I think it's ridiculous to say that you have to make an assumption, for example, to perceive and get knowledge. No, you have an apparatus that collects information. We call that information knowledge sometimes, subset of it. And you don't have to assume shit. This is an important aspect of physicalism. It's like the thing can go on and you don't... It's not an explanation of itself. An explanation is something a human or other mind will create about it. Okay. So, I think it's what we have is Descartes. Descartes' meditation, he digs his way down to I think, therefore I am, and then he says basically, all I can know from this, though, is that I exist. I can't know that anything I perceive is as it seems, and I would add to that, I can know that it isn't as it seems. It seems like a red photon. Actually, it's just a certain amount of energy with a certain wavelength. It's not red, so I know it isn't as it seems. But anyway, he says the only way we can know that is God, and I basically believe that. Hovind's premise that the only way to have certainty is to believe in God or something fundamentally analogous to a God. Okay, where I disagree is that we should want to know anything certainly, or even think in principle in those terms. But anyway, so you'll know Descartes' meditation, and he goes down to I think, therefore I am, and he uses God, most people don't know, to pull himself back out into the Christian philosopher that he was. And don't get me wrong, I like Descartes. Thanks for the coordinate system, dude. Okay. So the problem, I think therefore I am, is pretty compelling, I think. But the problem there is that it seems to imply there's will, that we're in control. I do thinking, you know, and I could be the result of thought. In fact, I think I am something that thinking does. My brain creates this phenomena of me, generates it. So, yeah. But I think we can repair that, as I've said in comments and some videos before. You know, I use the word perception, but I've decided it's going to be clear if I just use the word see. I see, therefore I am. And the reason that's clear is because everybody's so hung up on all the visual metaphors of reality. And they forget these other there's better metaphors like tangibility, which is a metaphor of being able to touch something slightly more real. I'll get into that hopefully in a second, unless I forget. So you can repair the I think therefore I am into I see therefore I am, and I think this should be obvious. I don't understand where the argument is. You see, if I say if Hovind asks me, is it possible that the universe doesn't exist? I just tell him I see therefore I am. I see. I'm having perceptions, therefore something exists. That's the definition. I dub that phenomena existence. And so we could talk about it. The difference is, Thunderfoot's saying we just have to assume him. Well, why shouldn't Hovind be able to assume? Well, I assume God instead, and I go one level deeper, and the way I have knowledge is because God, my connection to God, connects me to everything else. To combat that, you got to move the argument lower. And it's important, too, because Hovind successfully made a video where an atheist is going, whether it's possible the universe doesn't exist. I told you it's an assumption. And that's what Hovind wanted him to say. Didn't you guys get that? I know Thunderfoot didn't. Hovind did. Because he could show that video to theists, and they get to see a guy that's claiming to be really smart and being able to tell you all these subtle things about history and, archaeological records and everything. But he says he doesn't even know the universe exists, and we're supposed to believe him about carbon dating when he doesn't even say that the universe for sure exists. It's conceivable that. And then he says, but I assume it does, so we're the ones that believe that it does. Well, but that's not good enough. The point is, he's going to use a fallacy that, as a matter of fact, we all use, of ad hominem, not in saying an ad hominem, but in actually thinking ad hominem. They're going to go, this guy wants me not to believe in God. He wants me to believe that feeling I got, which I thought was from God, wasn't from God. He wants me to believe that, an electron can be in two places at once. And he wants me to believe that you can explain everything with physical reality. And yet he's so confused, he doesn't even think it's sure that things exist. And what people are always saying when they say things don't exist is they have come up with an idea of what existence must mean. Like it's substance, but maybe it's not substance, so maybe it doesn't exist. In reality, that's like, I use this over and over. Do people get it? The sun as a chariot of the gods being dragged through the sky. If what you find out the sun is not that, it doesn't mean the sun doesn't exist. It just means you got it wrong. If you find out existence is really a dream world or a matrix, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This is simple logic. You want to talk philosophy 101, this is logic 5. Now, if I say, yeah, I know I exist because I see, I don't know anything else about existence, what you've done is you rooted the argument. At that moment, to continue on that line of reasoning, he has to be talking about perceptions and what we perceive. And he'll be put in the position of coming up with the perceptions he has that to him, Hovind, that is, justify God. And Thunderfoot would be put in that position too. But luckily, that is how Thunderfoot has decided that the archaeological record says a particular thing, for example. The fossil record says a particular thing. Is because he's going from perceptions. And it's all conditional on, well, going from my perceptions. And the fact that we know the color red isn't really red in nature, we interpret it as red, doesn't matter because we're using continuity. We're not using direct access to reality. We're using the principle of continuity, which in a discrete universe is the conservation of energy, to chain ourselves out into less direct facts that could be deduced. And with more than one train, you can triangulate, and then you can do predictive models. And this is how you justify what Thunderfoot is trying to justify, in my opinion. How it should be justified. Right? And every time you take a step, there's a statistical noise added into your data the further out you get, thus making a distinction between primary and secondary information and so on, and levels of indirection relating to certainty of modeling. Okay, that's the argument you want to be having. You want to be having, well, just assuming that we have perceptions, what can we make of them? And then people get all hung up about, but perceptions are sometimes, they're crazy, and I see a face in a cloud. Yeah, that's right. And so what do you do to get over that? What you do is statistics, multiple experiences. You don't go off of one experience. You see something weird, you blink your eyes, you look again. That's even a short term. Over the long term, and in science, you continually collect information. And any model you have, you assume there's more information to connect. And so far, collect rather, and connect. So far, there's always a forefront. Every field ever invented by man so far has some forefront, some enigmas that are not yet explained by the model. So I don't really think there's a problem with all models are open. There's more information. They are descriptive, right? And post-dictive. They answer what's happened in the past. And then an extra test is this abstraction of predictive. We make a prediction and we see if it happens. This is another one of these chains of indirect reasoning that we do to kind of wrap up a phenomena. And at no point do we find out, oh, that's the way the world is. No, what we find out is that there's a perception in our, that there's a pattern rather in our perceptions. Based on my perceptions, here's what it looks like. What if you had different perceptions? Then it'd look different. What about the perceptions in the future? Couldn't they prove you wrong? Well, yes and no. Because this model is open. It's ready. It's assuming there's going to be more information. So if there is more information, it's correct in that. And if it has to adapt some part of its model, then it's not proven wrong by more information. Right? It's informed by more information. It gets better when it gets more information. And that's why I'm saying we should be skeptics, because skeptics believe in theoretical knowledge. Theoretical knowledge is exactly this knowledge that's open to more information. And it's like, it's a system that ensures knowledge is improved, right? At the same time, you might say it's being proved wrong. Proved wrong becomes energy that is affected into improvement, right? So the knowledge that proves me wrong is going to be giving me more knowledge. So for example, Hovind says you have 1% knowledge, and then he comes and proves you wrong with the infinite knowledge that's left over. Well, no, because every fact that comes in that proves me wrong is giving me more knowledge. It's not taking knowledge. That information can't take knowledge. If I accept the information and it's true, I have more knowledge. So if 99% of the information in the universe comes into me, proving me wrong, I'm going to end up with 98% of the knowledge. Okay.